We did introductions already, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to my first slide to,
Hey, you guys go backwards.
I don't know. I don't know what
The button on the left. It's just like any other mouse. There's nothing special about that. It's got an actual.
You gotta scroll it up to the actual screen.
Oh, she's on the back. You're on the back arrow.
Just
It's just a mouse. Nothing.
There we go. That's how I went backwards. Okay,
That's true.
here we go. Partnership with local NGOs. We started working in Haiti, and one of the very first things that really jumped out at you were the groups that were working there are facing just staggering situations. They're dealing with orphan children, they're dealing with malnutrition, they're dealing with problems that are just almost incomprehensible. What we realized was that we did not want to become a redundancy. We didn't want to take on their missions. We had a mission to bring energy to them, and in a way that they could, we could support them. We could enhance their situations in their communities. So we looked at it as a community as a whole, and we would work with the NGOs in those communities to try and bring the entire community up. We set our mission to build sustainable communities, and that means that you have jobs, you have education, you have opportunities, and by harnessing the relationships that we have with the local NGOs and the ones that they have with their people, we were able to really get in and really understand the needs of the community and how to apply what we could bring. And what we have is a background in energy and business. So we started a Jatropha program. Now Jatropha has gotten a very bad name internationally for being a dream fuel crop that crashed. And the problem is you can't economically do a sustainable plantation model. But what you can do is you can work directly with the farmer co-ops. And if they intercrop at 2 meters, they're not disturbing their food, but they're actually improving their soil. And the seeds from that create biofuel, and very, very easy biofuel, in the sense that you press it. You have 2 exit strains. One is seed cake that can be compressed into a clean burning charcoal substitute. Haiti's 92% deforested. That's their biggest problem. And with that deforestation, that's connected very much to the charcoal trade. So if you can sell a charcoal substitute, that's one great endeavor in a village. And the other is that the oil, once filtered, you don't have to refine it, can be directly put into a diesel generator or truck, and is a drop-in replacement for diesel fuel. So if you assume that diesel fuel is worth $5 a gallon, the trees live for 25 years. By working directly and knowing the farmers and working with the farmers, we've got our planting cost down to 10 cents a tree, which means for every $100 donation I get to plant trees, I plant 1,000 trees, which at $5 a piece over 25 years, it's a $125,000 impact in that community. So it is a way to help Haitians get a foothold in the communities where they live. Now Haiti is a rural country as well, with a massive capital city that is overflowing with people leaving the countryside. And they're leaving because there's lack of opportunity and lack of services, lack of education. The chance, if you go towards where the light is, of your life improving, is a draw that we are trying to fight against. And we're trying to make the situation in the village much better. So this is our agronomist in the middle picture. We gain solidarity with our people by showing up, and that is so critical, to come and come again. And it takes pretty much 3 trips to a community for them to be sure you're for real, but you can cut it down to 2 if you bring your children. We don't like to be away from our kids, and it was just natural for us to bring our children, and we became very deeply entrenched in the communities very quickly by being the ones who had the kids with them. By working in the communities, we were also able to we don't give charity. We give, education and opportunity. We work with them and we help them create programs that help the community itself. And it's all run by Haitians. It's not. Very few people actually interface with us once we're past the design of the program. In fact, I walk through the hillsides now, and somebody will say, she's the lady who brought light. And they'll say, come to my house, I have light. And I'm like, it's in a yellow box, right? Because, you know, it would be one of my customers. We learned an awful lot through this program, starting from a high level American, sort of, we have a great idea for you walking in. And one of my first hard learning experiences was telling them that we needed them to plant a nursery. And they did it exactly the way we told them to. And they tilled an area and they planted the seedlings. And we went back 3 months later during a rainstorm and watched all of it go down. We were just watching all of our seedlings float away, and they said, this is why Haitians use bags. I'm like, we're listening now very much, and everything we have ever designed since has been actually designed by Haitians. We give the concept, and what I've learned to do is say, this is where I want to get. So how do you do that? And that has been an extremely positive way to work and very exciting. Working on the ground, we also, because I'm connected to two worlds, I have the opportunity to find out things that they don't know from where they are. And one thing was this plant moringa. Moringa has been used for years and years and years by the Peace Corps to reverse malnutrition. It grows in Haiti. Nobody knows about it. And when you're offering the opportunity for them to become farmers, it's open to anyone. They're so excited about joining that program, they will try the Moringa program. And we've had orphanages, probably more than 4,000 kids already have had this malnutrition reversed by simply drying out the leaves, you grind it into a powder and you sprinkle it on the food. And 2 tablespoons a day for a month has put 2 pounds on each kid that they've tried it on. Kids with HIV on medications are now getting their appetites back, and we've worked with the Haitian Health Foundation and lots of small groups just by having them integrate this, and it's easy. It's also really good for livestock. That's my son Jack visiting, and this is one of the pretty dresses that Albie mentioned. The Episcopal women make hundreds of these dresses, and I take them to Haiti and have them distributed by our partners, into orphanages and situations that rarely see anything brand new, and it's a delight. That's one of the happy things that I get to do. Now, the evolution of the IEEE and Sirona relationship, we were working in Haiti. The IEEE was working on the Humanitarian Technology Challenge, and Ray and I started talking, and it was kind of like, well, how does what he does, what would that look like fitting in? And he was right. He did suggest nuclear initially, and Haiti's not quite there. So we ended up with a Sunblazer by combining their expertise and ours of what people needed, and as you said, going to the village, what do you want? What do you need? And all of the Sunblazer was born out of that sort of collaboration, being communicated up and down. Sirona and IEEE then moved everything into a for-profit entity that has been registered as a corporation in Haiti, and it's the Sirona Haiti SA. And what's exciting about that is that project, with just the pilot units, they are actually self-sufficient economically. They pay for operators to go out and visit them. They pay for their own maintenance, just from the revenue generated from those 6 stations. So we're starting on a positive footing and moving forward. At this point, we have these 9 units that are on their way. I was able to parlay the IEEE's 9-unit donation into an 18-unit donation by having USAID buy those 9. And we will build the next 9 in Haiti. So by the end of the year, over 2,000 homes will be serviced. And you're looking at a real business kicking off. So kind of how does it all work? The community relationships are our responsibility. Project development is us interfacing with CSI and working towards what solutions and changes and getting feedback on different items. We can talk about the light stick. The problem with the light stick in our field test was that we were to try the light stick in communities that have the Sunblazer. And so they had a competing product that was something so desirable that they were, it was they're like, we don't want this, we want that, and trying to get people to buy into it. What they really liked about it were the rechargeable batteries. And I think fairly quickly they were stripped down to recharging batteries as opposed to using light sticks. But every bit of feedback is really important. Good, bad, that's the only way that things are going to change and actually be the item that the people in the community, what they're looking for. What was really significant about the way we worked was we started at the bottom. That woman is 103 years old. She's one of my customers. Her neighbor is a very old man, and he said, well, I know about the 100, but I don't know about the 3, as if she was stretching. I'm giving it to her. I'm presuming that she's telling the truth, that she actually is 103. But by knowing her and knowing what she needs, it makes it so much easier for us to go in then at the government level. Now, when you're talking about the government, the elite, the diaspora, they're very, very out of touch with what's going on in the village. They don't understand what's needed. They just know something has to be done, and it's such a big problem. You know, basically the hands are in the air. And what I was able to do was walk into the strategic planning process for the government of Haiti and explain to them that here's an option. And they took the Sunblazer and they actually made it 1/3 of the strategic plan for the country. The villages will be lit using this method. The towns will be microgrid. The city of Port-au-Prince is grid power. So being able to manage the relationships and build the relationships on the ground, the government level, the funders, that's what we do. And interconnecting all of that with the desire of the CSI to change the world. And that has been our key focus, or mine on this team, has been the relationship development. And now we've built towards the point where we have the UNEP, we're involved in a program with them. We're involved in 2 grants from USAID. And we've cut the apron strings basically from CSI in terms of future funding. They funded the pilot. We proved together that it works, and now Sirona is on their own to continue it, and I think we have a really great success story. So, leveraging strengths to succeed. That's really important because Architecture for Humanity does this. They look for what are the strengths of the community you're working in, because every community has a strength. And in Haiti, it is the sense of community. In the villages, people are there their whole lives. They know everything about each other. And if you harness that strength correctly, you can accomplish things that seem impossible. And what we were able to accomplish was setting a business plan in place that they were part of writing. And because of all the community pressure, everybody pays. It's working out really well. Those relationships, you don't want to be the one who didn't pay. And you don't want to be the one who loses your kit. The people have been writing their names on their kits from day one. And that was viewed as a negative by the UNEP. They went to look at the project and they said, well, you should really make it efficient where you have extra kits and people just drop off and pick up. But people having a sense of ownership of that kit is critical, and they don't ever want their name crossed out with it. So we're absolutely happy with the way that has worked out. And we've always welcomed that sort of, we leave our plan open for people to bring in ideas that might make it better, but, and have in the past. But the community pressure in the sense of security has been astonishing. In Haiti, we were able to drop off $250,000 worth of equipment and walk away. We haven't lost a light bulb, we haven't lost a battery, we haven't had a station tampered with. And that is not true of other community projects, for example, solar streetlights. Even in our neighborhoods, the solar panels have been stolen. But the Sunblazer is safe because 80, well, right now 40, but it will be 80 homes rely on that. So you've got eyes all around it, and nobody wants anything to happen to that station, because if it does, you all lose your light. The same with paying. You don't want to be the people who don't pay, because that's possibly going to cost the whole neighborhood, the station. And so it has been really, it's been very insightful to see what sorts of dynamics are the ones that actually make the project work. And the technology itself has been bundled appropriately, but you can build one of these. The technology is not the mystery, it's actually the development of the business plan that goes with it. Now, market building. We started before the equipment when it was just on a napkin, and talking about what people needed, what people wanted. And we did not start at the top level, asking people what could be afforded by homes. We actually started at the very bottom level. We went to 700 homes in an oral survey that was transcribed. It was all Creole, it was Haitian to Haitian. We did not ask any of the questions. If we had asked the questions, we would have been told that nobody could afford to pay for anything. But what we did was we asked, how much would you be willing to pay for electricity? And people gave varying amounts, you know, but the idea was that they would all be, you know, like having to pay something. Then we asked very specific questions. How much do you spend each month on kerosene, candles, and cell phone charging? And the answer that we got from these people who have no money was that they were paying a median of $10 a month for those services. What we decided to charge was 50 Haitian dollars a month, which is $6.50, $6.25. And we knew that we were at the price of kerosene or below, and that wouldn't include the phone charging, which meant that they could supplement their incomes by charging other people's phones and offset the $6 price point. And it has been, I wonder sometimes if we're low, because it is affordable to people. The model's working really well. We're not going to change it at this point, but it's worth noting that, you know, people do pay for energy, but they don't really realize that they're paying for energy, because pennies a day for kerosene doesn't feel like $10 a month, but it actually is. We haven't had a problem convincing the market to want to lease the equipment, want to get the equipment to subscribe to the service. But here was another learning experience. The term lease in Haiti implies ownership after some time. If you lease land for 30 years, you get to own it at the end. If you lease our kit, you don't get to own it at the end, because the kit is not the value, the light is the value. So having people subscribe to a service for light, that's the important language and mentality that we've needed to switch from when we started the pilot to now. And so now you're subscribing to a service rather than purchasing a box. People didn't understand that if they bought their box, they would have to buy a percentage of the charging station as well. You know, we're talking about a lot of money to make this thing work if you were going to do it individually, and then you would have no service and maintenance. At this point, if someone drops their box, people carry them on their heads a lot. And sometimes they do get dropped, and when they do, our technician goes and fixes them. And the concept of warranty is brand new in Haiti. Nobody understands something that will work forever. Everything breaks, has a very short lifetime there, and we have been happy. We've only had one component in a sun blazer have a problem, and we were able to replace it quickly and at no cost to them, of course. So finding the right product is also very, very important. This light bulb, the shape of it, the way it's mounted, means everything to the people in the communities where we work. The solar light sticks, anything that looks like a flashlight, anything portable like that tends to look like an inferior product. This makes them feel like they live in town. And that's what they've craved their whole life, is to be able to pull a chain and a light comes on. I've watched kids pull chains and see the light come on for the first time and jump back, but it's a really remarkable thing when they wire their house up for them to have the pride, the dignity of being town people without that. We've changed the labels on the boxes to create a Haitian brand product. Because this is not charity, because it is business, you need to make a product that people want to buy. And so T-Soleil means little sun. That's the name of the kit now. And so the T-Soleil kit is what goes back and forth to people's houses. And on the back, we've done a pictograph instead. because a lot of the language that was written between the French and the English, people couldn't understand. So, there's the light, turn it on, you plug in your dead light, you can run a light in a cell phone, be sure to turn it off when you're done, and don't get it wet. So, those are the key brand. People are very excited, and it was interesting when even this little sun was taken from Haitian art as the symbol that is most often in Haitian art for a sun. So I'm probably running very fast because I tend to talk very fast when I'm speaking. But what we've accomplished between the CSI, Sirona, and the Haitian people at the very bottom village level, all working together, is we've designed something that's affordable, it's durable, and do the business plan is relatively theft-proof. We just haven't had any problem in a year. We have a culturally appropriate business plan. It's easy for me to go from one village to another. Actually, the news has reached the villages before I've gotten there now, and so they're very excited. These 9 that we are deploying in the St. Mark commune are very, very excited about it, and they understand the business plan as soon as you tell it to them because it's written in a Haitian context. We have a very strong Haitian-to-Haitian network, as I said. People we partner with are not necessarily down, I love to meet my customers later, but it's Haitian technicians, it's Haitian assemblers, it's Haitian. Everyone that the customer deals with is Haitian. That's the point, right? We are working towards our obsolescence, both as an organization. I would love to just switch projects someday. I would love to have enough power out there where this project isn't necessary, and the equipment is working towards obsolescence. The concept that things could change if your grid extends, which is not very likely, but we can move our equipment further into the dark. We supplement and augment I'll talk about this in synergies more, but we work with the utilities. We're not taking their customers. These people are not getting any service anyway. So we are making the utility look better while we're there. And if they run a line, we can move into the hills. And we can actually pack it up and put it on a boat and send it to Cameroon. I mean, you can move these things. So you can put it where the need is when the need is there. So that's allowed us a lot of flexibility by not creating competition at any level, but just augmenting and adding a service where there is none. We have a successful pilot. We learned a lot of lessons, and we've added them both to the design and to the business plan by changing verbiage, etc. The branding strategy creates a local Haitian product, which we're very excited about that. And we formed a Haitian company. We have foundational funding partner relationships with USAID and UNEP. Starting this summer, there's a UNEP program that we've folded into where we're going to open 10 end-of-grid charging stores. Each store will have 100 customers, and it's a 2-year, $500,000 program where we will actually have 30 stores at the end of 2 years. So 30 stores times 100 customers, that's a lot of customers to pick up. And the goal would be of that to generate the revenue from those customers to build more sun blazers to reach the communities just beyond them and keep expanding in that direction. USAID has these 9. We're building an assembly facility that USAID wants to fund, and then following that, we know that they're getting to a wrap-up in Haiti, and we are hoping to scoop the last of the pot of the money and add as many more sun blazers as they want to order at the newer, lower rate that we'll be able to charge. We're very tightly partnered with the government of Haiti, not only in the strategic plan as a designated method of rural electrification, but we are also part of the energy, the president's campaign. He had 5 focus points. There was health, education, and energy was the 5th out of 5, and we were added to his programs as well. And the English of it is give me light, give me life. That's the name of that program. So we're proud to be part of that. And working with the national utility is no problem, and Our first local assembly, we thought began yesterday, but the items are still in port, so in the next couple of days we will be building in Haiti. Now, the successful transitions that have occurred are that we have worked with IEEE, partnered with IEEE, but then created something that could go without the IEEE. And that, obviously we were greatly indebted, and thousands of people in Haiti greatly appreciate everything that the IEEE has done. But we're also very proud to have created a Haitian company that can continue to move forward on its own and not be another charity. We've proved that charity is better than business. Business is better than charity because it is sustainable. I had to learn sustainable because I started with very much a charity mentality, and I raised enough money to feed 4 orphanages a quarter of the year's food. I didn't want to create 100% dependency. I wrote my checks and I sent them, and I had no money in my account. And I looked at Paul and I said, "Oh, I have to do that again?" And he's like, "That's what sustainability means." And we've now, with our farmers, for instance, a lot of times they want to extend their gardens, and they work in a system called Combite in Haiti, and that means that all the farmers will get together and they'll work on each person's land in a rotation. It's a communal farming effort. Well, when they want to expand their area, they need some cash to do that. So I don't pick, my community partners pick 10 farmers a year, and we give them a $50 loan to extend. We don't want them just planting to truffle, we want them planting food crops as well. So we give them the $50, they can expand their territory, and they don't pay back in cash, they pay in food to the local school and to the community center for the people who are unable to farm for themselves, which means I don't have to raise money for food anymore. I've found a way to have the community do that, which is much more efficient. So we'll have 2,000 homes lit by the end of the year, and I would like to part with a story about this man's name is Pastor Honore. He is an orphanage director in Jeremy. He has been running his orphanage since 1982. He's about 55 kids, and he has never, it was told to us at the Haitian Health Foundation, he's never had 2 pennies to rub together. He has been a scrapper and just barely gotten by, and begged his community, his entire existence, for the money to help with the kids. Now, he was our wild card when we put our units out. We thought he could do it, and we hoped he could do it, and he has proven to do it really better than anyone else. He's always had all of his reports on time. He's always made all of his, he's just an amazing little businessman because he's so proud to have a business now. Now he leases kits to the people he used to ask for money, and the revenue he generates from running his business pays for the kids to eat. And I interviewed him about 6 months after we dropped the unit and asked him what the biggest change was, and he started to laugh. He said, "I can't make the kids go to bed. They have light, they want to stay up, they want to do this and that, and I can't get them to go to bed." And right after we turned off the camera, I was like, "Well, that's really great, that's a big difference." And he said, "But the biggest difference is I don't have to ask you for money anymore." And then I knew that we were doing the right thing and that we were on the right track, because giving him dignity was more important than probably anything else that we could accomplish. So I don't know if it's lunchtime or if people have questions, but that was my last slide. So.
I'm just trying to understand the concept. So you go into the community with the solar trailer, and then you give it to a member of the community, and they run it as in they make money out of it, charging the packs.
Exactly, it's a franchise model.
Okay.
So we select an operator who has applied, we have a process, and then is vetted by the Haitian management that we have. And they select the operator. This is going on right now in St. Mark for those 9. They pick them, the operators go through a training process. They understand the business model and the equipment before the equipment arrives. When they get the equipment, they charge the customer $625 a month. And the customer, after paying them, we have 80 customers, so they're making nearly $500 a month in lease that they collect. Then they pay back to Sirona $300, and that's for all the maintenance and also for our ability to repay investors who would have put money into the units. So far this is grant money, but this is actually a good social venture option for investment. So
we're going to a lot of detail on the business model this after lunch.
You said two quick things just to affirm. First, what you've done is wonderful in that you've helped some of these people own something, and I think it's a dignity affirming thing. And then the second thing that I wanted to just highlight, which you know, is the fact that you don't seem to have the need to be in front. You are allowing the indigenous people to take the lead. You probably know this already, but it is imperative, it is important that the indigenous people see their own sons and daughters taking the lead in making change happen in their communities. It is so imperative, and there's really nothing that affirms a person's dignity more than understanding that God loves them well enough to use them to solve their own problems. So that's just wonderful.
well, the only way it can succeed is if I'm not up front.
Exactly.
There's a whole different thing going on when I'm up front, and
Exactly. And it's not always good.
no, it's not. No, white people are called blanc, and you know, there's the blanc price and there's the Haitian price, and yeah, our farming program.
Mike is loving that.
Yeah.
As we travel.
Hey there, white man. Here comes the white man.
You didn't say this, but my understanding of the whole concept of empowering the people in the beginning was you found partners, potential partners. It was those partners that went out and conducted the surveys,
Exactly.
not this whitey guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent.
And the reason behind it is when they get that solar trailer, they are responsible for finding the customers, filling the subscriptions to it, the full service. That's all their responsibility. They have to collect the money. They have to pay the bills. They are the ones that have to make it happen. We cannot make it happen. So I think it's a huge empowering step all at one blow.
And I think that that's also the reason we don't have that. We were asked at the operator training session, well, what are you going to do about security? And we said, we're not going to do anything about security. And they were like, great. Then it's turned out fine.
We got tired of hearing Paul say, that's your problem.
How about, all right, the NGO mentality in that, you know, these are obviously coming from a foreign source. So the NGO mentality being, why aren't you giving it to us?
That question is asked all the time. There's constant whining that we don't want to pay this much, and we say, but it's an opt-in, and if you choose not to, that's okay, because for every house subscribed, there are 5 on the list in every single neighborhood. So, I always say, I have to pay back the money that it costs to build this machine, and that has not been true in the case of the IEEE ones, but the point is, this is
That's the concept you want to
it's
tell
a
them,
concept,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a business.
Right.
And basically, I have become a credit facility for the people who could not afford to build a sunblazer. So, I'm like, if you really don't like that, then that's okay, you can give it back. And I had one man who has a laptop tell me that this was a third world solution. And I'm like, well, sadly, I'm standing in the third world at the moment, and he was my only customer who has a laptop. So I was like, you have a very unique problem in that you have a laptop, and I'm really sorry.
He couldn't charge his laptop from it, or what was his complaint?
He was frustrated. He wanted more power.
So you can buy a second unit.
Well, there aren't enough, but I'm sure that he will be doing that.
Right.
Coming up.
And that's the answer.
Yeah.
We get another unit.
Right. No, I'm very excited that we have enough units, and For instance, just to tell you what our people grapple with, this is Lex Edmay, and he handles the World Food Program for the 7 areas around the Grand Guave area. He gets about 5 tons of food a year. So it's important that Sirona is able to manage the overall administration of this thing and get it set up in a way, because our partners are maxed out. They are doing amazing things, but they cannot add in creation of the infrastructure to run an energy, basically a mini utility. That doesn't mean that we can't create that in Haiti, but the people who are helping apply this and get it going on the ground are not necessarily the people who could have just taken it and run with it because they are taxed out.
What is the distance from a trailer unit that customers are willing to travel in order to provide service?
As far as it takes, to be quite honest, they live in mountainous areas. This is part of the reason that the grid will never reach them, and they are bigger walkers.
They're like 4, 5, 6 hours.
They were already walking 3 hours to charge their cell phone, and the trailer's closer than that. And so basically, anybody who lives near someone who has a kid now no longer has to take a 3-hour hike to go charge their cell phone.
Where are the trailers located? Are they on the property of the owner-operator, or are they in a public space?
They are generally on the property of the owner-operator. Like the Honoraries is at his orphanage. There's one at a school in St. Etienne. There is one in the middle of a farming community at the operator's house in Vizier-Plan. Marmalade, that guy owns a business and it's kept across the street they're all in central locations for the community. And people, one thing people really like is the 3-hour charge time. You can drop it off because it's secure and you can walk away. Individual solar for your house, the smaller kids, if you walk away with yourselves laying out, you may come home and they might not be there. So it's a safe way to recharge, and you just go about and go to the market and pick it up on the way back.
I have actually 2 more questions.
Sure.
How did you find the 40 people, and were the other people that didn't get selected for the kit, did they have any animosity to the people that did get the kit?
Okay, Haitian to Haitian, we didn't find the 40 people. Each operator finds his own customers.
So how did that process go?
He picked people he felt that he could trust in his community to pay for it each month, I think. And then there were waiting lists kept for the next that did not get it, and there was not animosity. We did have a situation where there's a little bit of subletting going on, where one customer family keeps the box for 2 days, and then another customer, then they sublet it to, around, and everybody gets to use it that way. But there's actually, we were very, jealousy, I would say, is the leading cause of death in Haiti. People don't like to see someone pushing out of the same situation. It's a very unfortunate dynamic. And we were actually very frightened when we put the unit in honoraries. I was worried that I might be creating a target situation that I didn't want to. And it turns out that every single one of these say that they are treated like the president in their neighborhood, it's been positive.
Okay.
Across the board, which has been really good.
Yeah.
The biggest
Yeah.
thing is
Surprising.
we didn't do anything to pick the 40 customers. Nothing at all. It was pure hands-off. The operator, we're going to show up and collect our franchise fee every month.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about the part of like the 2 of you actually doing it, but if you give, you somehow pick your operator and I don't know, he touches 40 people and say you're in the club, but how do the other people feel who aren't?
But that's his issue to do.
Yeah.
There is one other mitigation on that, and we have made a solid line where no operator will ever have more than 3 units, ever. Which means that you will never have a monopoly in a village. If one guy has 3 units and the need's that big, we'll be giving his next door neighbor a unit as well, so that you can keep expanding that way. We would never let one person control all the light, but obviously these 6 have controlled the first of the light in their neighborhoods.
And my final question
Sure.
is that So with the flows of money coming in, it pays for the technician and all of these stuff. So when batteries start to need to be replaced, is that going to be an issue, or you make enough each surplus, you put it away? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
They actually asked one of the questions that I had. But another question I have is, I don't know if you know this, but how often do they come back to recharge their
I do
batteries?
know. The average is between 5 and 7 days. Because their energy needs are very, very low. You know, they're very careful about not using it. We're expecting to see that go up. 3 to 5 was what we really expected. 5 to 7 is more what the reality is, but I think we'll get closer to 3 to 5 as people begin to use light more.
I think it probably, if you did a graph of distance away versus recharge time, you know, it would be a direct relationship, because who wants to walk in the extra 6 miles any more often than you need to? So I would consider that's.
So do they actually wait for it while it's charging, or since they have to walk a few hours to get there?
Like the one at the school, the kids brought it to school, and then at the end of the school day, they just take it home with them. And sometimes, I would say sometimes they sit around and chat, and other times they go to the market. They'll do it on a market day, for instance. Just bring it with them.
Honoré, I think the man who runs the orphanage, he has one of the generating units, and so the lights that are recharged by that unit, are they going to people in the community or to the orphanage?
He leases one of his own light kits for the orphanage, and then the rest are customers that he leases out to.
So one of the kits for the orphanage, for 50 orphans, you said, or how do they provide lighting to the children in the orphanage?
With home kits that they've subscribed.
And who pays for it?
He does. That comes out of his.
Where does he get his money for the orphanage? He's supported by an NGO or something?
No. He has customers paying for their kids, correct? And he owes a lease. If he kept.
So for the lighting that he provides to his orphans, he uses the money that he generates from running the business?
Exactly. Now we will be adding an ancillary plug so that you can tap into residual power that's on the station. That's always been in the works, and then that would actually, the load customer, you know, you could use it, you could make a, you know, do refrigeration, you could do lights at an orphanage, you could add computers, you know, at a school. There's a lot of options once you start opening up some of that extra power, but we've really been sort of looking towards a situation where you have 2 units at the state, you know, at that location, you know, because then you've got enough power to be sure that you're not going to short your customers. Now, that's something, frankly, I'm not very worried about because of the community pressure. If you plug in a freezer and you don't have any power for your customers who show up, you will be unplugging it pretty quickly because you can't afford to not run that business well.
Some of these trailers are in remote mountainous areas, but other trailer is in more a community village type setting?
Haiti is just really spread out because it's really rural. And so they're...
But Marmelade's pretty much in.
Marmalade is the one that's the most densely populated, and Jeremy. Marmalade and Jeremy would be more of like a
Are there
village.
community centers where, you know, 500, 1,000 people live within a 500-meter area where that's where the local shop is going to be to buy your seeds and fertilizers and things like that? Is that?
Yes, but most of those are along the main roads where there are actually power lines. So we are not where EDH is operating. We're you
So
know.
does Haiti have communities, I mean, these village market centers that have no power?
Yeah, 1 in 7 people have any access to electricity in Haiti.
Okay. What I'm trying to get at is how are people satisfying their need for power in these village markets? Is it diesel generator? Is it gas
Diesel generator, yeah.
Diesel gas generators?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and keep in mind, the product we're supplying is really lighting the cell phone charging.
Right.
That's the real product, and what they're using right now for those things is kerosene, light, candles, and then at the market, you can usually charge up your cell phone because someone's got a generator.
Did that answer your question?
It's evolving. I'm not quite sure what my question is, so I think we'll get through that over the next couple of days. One of the things is the training of the technicians. How long of a training period do you need to have before people are well versed in how to operate and make sure that the units are properly cared for?
The training lasted 2 days for the operators, and the technicians came, I believe, for 4. I think they were there for the operator training as well as technician training. The main thing a technician needs to know is when to call somebody about pulling something out. You know, they're not going to repair the part, they just need to identify which part needs to be swapped out. So it's not highly technical training, it's more troubleshooting.
So then you have another level of expertise.
Well, no, because we have all
overseeing.
warranted parts. So we're just going to, he'll say, this part went out, so he'll bring it back, give him a new one, he puts it in, and he's ready to
So
go
there's a
again. And
central
we send
depot for
back.
that you have there?
That's what we're building out right now.
So your lessee operator has zero capital investment up front, but pays $300 a month, and on average is earning over $500, $525 a month if fully leased out.
For gross revenue is about $525 a month.
All right, so that's $2,700 a year income for your lessee operator.
Exactly.
How does that compare to, say, the average per capita income in that community?
In the rural communities, that's very high.
How does it compare? How high?
I mean, I hate to say this because it's just that thing that is always said about Haiti, but they live in the $1 a day bracket.
So it's 10 times higher, 9 times higher.
It's a very good job.
One of our friends set up a technology center, and when he initially wanted to make sure he paid everybody really well. And this is in a kind of Lacourciere area, so semi-urban. And his high rate that he paid people was $300 a month. And that was super high. It was actually so high, he disrupted the economic community and had to fire everybody and hire new people and pay them less.
Which is where I was going with my question. I mean, is it too high?
Here's the thing, where these are generally not individuals. For instance, with Honoré, it's a whole orphanage that is getting that income. At a school, the school it can pay its teachers because of the income, and we're not focusing on individual enrichment. That would be a problem. Where we are focused are generally where the impact of those dollars actually goes to programs that are badly needed in those places that can't generate revenue.
And it is, that's one of the things that Michelle, because she spent so much time in the community, being aware of what is that now, what is too little, what is too much, and that's sort of what we do.
The prices you charge, I mean, do you dictate the prices that those people can charge their customers? Because I understand that they're responsible for finding the customers. So wouldn't they be responsible for how much they charge?
What we dictate is the price they have to pay us, and that's the $300 a month because that keeps it economically sustainable. Everything is run with them charging $625 a month. If they were going to charge less than that, then that just cuts into their profit.
So they could go to charge more.
Right. What we can't afford to happen is, for example, for a church to allow a community to get theirs for free. That would be a really big problem and disruptive to our model.
Right.
Because it would be unfair, and everybody would want to go charge their kids that guy then, and no longer have to pay their lease. So we're very particular about how we apply this, and we don't give it over to groups so they can apply it in a different way, which might seem benevolent, but just promotes the charity mentality, keeps people tied.
$525 per month gross earnings comes from an 80 unit model, not a 40.
We'll never do the 40 again.
Right.
In fact, we're taking 40 more kids to the
40.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And their lease was only 130 when they had 40 customers.
I see.
So the model has shifted as we added.
Yeah.
So you would.
Is this your
This is not.
post?
It is not the I can tell you which one it is if you.
I'm not sure it'll even work because it's.
It might
net
be
is
bugging
saying-
the bandwidth is not
Collected
very good.
monthly or weekly or?
Just
Monthly.
hold on a second.
It's,
Our operators actually,
if you can
our
get to YouTube,
field techs go
it's
to
not.
the station every month.
I mean, you're collecting, but what are they collecting from the customers?
Well, it's almost like a pay when you can, quite frankly.
Right.
And so some customers are paying monthly at the beginning of the month, some pay a little bit every week.
So they're not collecting each time they come in charge?
Yeah, he'll talk about that.
We can talk about that this afternoon, that's.
Right.
I can find it and we can
We'll go
see.
into all the, gory
Okay,
details this
maybe you can
afternoon.
have one.
Thank you. Oh, you're encouraging us to come eat.
Okay.
From the various load options you have an option of supplying energy to small businesses. And you want to know if there has been like a field trial feedback so far. Because from our own standpoint, initially we were all about providing energy to the remote dwellers and the remote settlements. But in partnering with some other agencies who are also interested in the business side, we got involved in also powering an agro-based industry, which entails providing electricity to business and also some energy to like pump water to be used in the agro industry. So I want to know how that fits into the solar blazer model. And on our own, we've been thinking of like segregating making the solar blazer solely for supplying energy to the settlements, then using a solar water pump to power the water, and also build like a mini solar system supply. So I don't know how that fits in.
Your question is exactly why I interface with the IEEE, because that's the question that I would bring back to these people and ask them, because I wouldn't be able to technically tell you what the energy loads. The concept is that we can build businesses, pump water, do all of those things in the community, but I always come back and say, now what we need is a water pump, and they figure it out, and that's what CSI, that partnership does, because honestly, I can't tell you, but.
I think what you'll find is the model that we use in Cameroon might satisfy your needs a little differently, because ours is a microgrid model that has a little bit more energy for fixed locations than your portable model, which is wonderful for your remote areas, so they're complementary here.
Well, I think our concept in the beginning was we have a convenient sized module. You want to drive bigger loads, you get another module